Hi, you're listening to Playing Out from the Bar. Please be aware this podcast contains strong language.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the Playing Out from the Bar podcast. I'm Jack Lacey. Once again, I've been joined in the virtual bar by my good friends Dobby and Tracy. How are we doing, lads? I'm going to come to you first this week, Tracy, as you weren't with us last time. So how's your day been so far?
Yeah, good mate, good. I think I'd like to apologise to Virgin Media, just get that on the airwaves. I don't think it was them, the issue last week. I believe it was myself. My laptop needs a bit of an upgrade, I think. So, sorry, Richard. It wasn't you. It was me.
Have you been sat on that for the whole intervening week between our records? You've just been like, I really should have apologised to Virgin Media first chance I get.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still willing to take Hermes through the courts, but I think if we're on a track of apology, I think maybe Beer 52 might get one from you, hopefully.
Hopefully, yeah. What are you drinking tonight in the bar?
You boys will like this, actually. No one works harder than the corporate lawyers at Aldi. So I'm on a premium quality French beer, and it's called 1897. It's essentially 1664. There you go. I'll show it for the camera.
Yeah, let's have a look. Oh my god! Wow,
it is literally
that's fantastic.
It's close enough to do a double take, but not close enough to be sued. It's superb. What about you two?
Some people would get that wrong and spot the difference.
Yeah, they would actually, yeah. That is. I had to genuinely look. I just thought that's a 1664 can. I've spotted a mile off.
Well, like I said, they work hard, the corporate lawyers at Aldi. So,
Dobby, what are you drinking tonight?
First of all, I've been the one with technical difficulties the last couple of weeks, and we're trying to get my sound sorted, and I've just been playing around actually with it this last 2 minutes. Has it changed at all? Has it got any better? I found a setting and amended it.
It's slightly louder, I would say. I think there's been a marginal gain. I probably wouldn't go any further than that, but
okay, we'll take marginal gain. Hopefully it'll be all right. Anyway,
we can move
but
forward.
But no, I'm all right. And tonight I'm drinking a Hayes Little Thing IPA Session Edition, and I've gone back to just what was left over in my fridge from when someone's obviously been here, so I'm kind of building up a bit of like a consistency and just taking people's beers. But I guess the good thing is like they're leaving a good mix of beers. Like I've got an IPA today. I had that Cobra or whatever it was the other week.
The loose Cobra, as it shall always be known.
I'm not even having to go to the supermarkets at the minute. I've just got people coming around and leaving beers. So yeah, to be honest, I've only had a sip of it, but it tastes quite nice. It's a Sierra Nevada brewing company. So
I feel like I'm on the most
travelled over from the States to this one.
You two are on. I would say they're both quite adventurous tipples, really. Like I feel like the bar. We've had to sort of route towards the back of the bar to find that, and I'm just on bog standard Peroni. Possibly the most standard continental lager known to man. So I feel like
Peroni exotic.
Yeah, Jack, mine was literally like a pound a can maybe, from Aldi, so it's exotic.
Yeah, but quality. Yeah, I suppose quality doesn't always. It's not always the most interesting, even if it's high in quality and high in taste. But yeah, Peroni can feel free to send us some samples. I prefer them to Beer 52 anyway. We'll start with our, as we always do each week on Playing Out from the Bar, with our positive and negative from the week each. We'll go around the table. I'll come to you first, Dobby. Have you got anything positive or bad that you want to, good, bad or indifferent, that you want to share with the group?
Positive would be another consistency. My positives always seem to be weekend related and going out.
It's a party lifestyle. Yours is like, yeah, there's beers left in the fridge every week. I'm always out.
No, my positive this week, and it was a good positive. Went down to Leicestershire to visit one of my friends from university. So me and one of my other mates went down there for an evening out in Nottingham actually on the Saturday night. But he just lives out near Loughborough. Not seen them guys probably in about 6 months now, given obviously the COVID situation. And one of my friends their family's going through a bit of a tough time at the minute. His mum's got quite a rare illness at the minute. They're doing a big fundraiser for some treatment that she needs. So I think he quite enjoyed the company to have us down there. And nice to catch up and going out in Nottingham as well actually, which for a new one for me. And must say, good place. Enjoy it. Would recommend it to anybody who's looking for a new city to give a go. I definitely enjoyed Nottingham.
That sounds nice. I don't know because I've not been myself, but I always believed like Nottingham was quite a sort of club-based place. But were you just obviously at the moment, given the situation, were you just out for drinks during the day or?
No, it was mid-afternoon through to about 2 a.m. So good 12 hours. But no, there was plenty of variety, plenty of bars. It was good. Definitely recommend. Negative. I've not really thought of this at the moment. Actually, my negative for the week is I'm definitely feeling the effects of still working from home. My job before meant that I was travelling quite a lot. If I wasn't in the office, I'd be actually overseas. Whereas now I'm literally working in a flat. So I'm doing I can literally do 20 steps around the perimeter of the place. It's just caught up with me a bit this week. Just a bit fed up of not being able to be out doing my job properly. I just think it's been like 5 months now. Would really just do with a bit of normality again. So that's been my negative this week. It's hard to stay focused really and be driven. I find anyway, like especially when my job role's not typically what it usually is, because I can't physically be travelling anywhere. That's my negative.
Yeah, I think that the knock-on effect of everyone work, or a large percentage of the population having to work from home over the next few months, we're going to start to see perhaps like the more negative aspects of that and sort of the other side to it. So I feel you on that. Tracy, what about you?
Yeah, so I was back in the motherland at the weekend, went back across the M62 to see my mum and dad in Scunthorpe, which is nice. Don't get to see them as often, like I said, but on Sunday we actually relived our childhood dreams. We went to Sundown Adventureland with Alfie near Retford. Superb place. Looking at plastic bears, plastic cowboys all day. Yep. Absolutely.
I've been there as about a 4-year-old. Some of the old school favourites still about ride wise.
It could be 1999 from my memory. To be honest, it's not changed in that time. So that was nice.
I didn't expect it to have changed for some reason. It just in my head, I imagine it's just like it. I reckon even in 30 years, it'll still have the same like pirate, water flume, and Santa sleigh ride.
It was a belting day as well. To be honest, it was lovely. Nice weather and stuff. And then probably the negative thing. One of my closest friends who I work with is sort of no longer works with us anymore, and he was just one of them characters who brightened up your day a little bit. So it's obviously a sign of the times at the minute, but it's just quite depressing. Really, well, not depressing,
was that his choice to go, or was it?
Yeah, he'd actually handed his notice in like before the pandemic, but it's sort of he never actually left, but he was just a unique character really, and it's just a bit sad to see him go. His place is a bit different without him, and then also similar to you as well, really, Dobby.
You spend a lot of time at work, don't you? So it's always handy to
he's just
who you get along with.
He was a good laugh, to be fair. He's done some wacky and wonderful stuff, great stories and stuff like that. But then similar to you, really, Dobby, like it probably hit me more so like this past week, where like the Greater Manchester area is seeing a rise in sort of figures again for coronavirus, and it just feels like, oh God, are we getting out of this at all? Like, we're back in the office a couple of days a week now, still working from home as well, but it just feels like that sort of, I know it's for everyone really, but sort of penny dropped this week that we're in it for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean, mate.
That, to be honest, Travis, you've hit the nail on the head for me, because I mean, my negative for this week was going to be the sort of like, you know, the re-emergence of COVID cases and just it dominating the news, and like
it's just everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah,
like, I can't escape it.
Nowadays I just feel like I can't even like stay as up to date with the news as I like to be, because I just get depressed by the whole situation with it, really. And so you've sort of, yeah, we're on for the same page, I think, for this week's. But to turn it in, I mean, my positive is I think this podcast hopefully gives me it's a bit of light relief for us at the end of the day, and just sort of it's a nice sort of hour or so to take your mind off the situation, really. So that actually brings us nicely over to the social corner for this week. Every week we have a quick visit to the social corner before getting on with the main topic of discussion on playing out from the bar. And this week it brings, I mean, it's quite an old tweet. I've had to go back a few months to sort of dig this out, but I thought I'd bring this to your attention, both of you, because I think you'll enjoy it, hopefully. So it's my classic Twitter conversation, another rival to 28 versus 29, which is probably the GOAT of Twitter and Facebook discussion when it comes to football, anyway. The tweet is Duncan Alexander, football journalist, tweeted, "Reminder that Tom Cleverley has assisted as many PL goals in 2016 as Mesut Ozil." That was the original tweet. An Arsenal fan at the Twitter handle Arsenal Sanchez has responded with, "Quick reminder that I'm going to smash your head in if I ever see you." That's it. That's all his initial responses to this journalist. The journalist, in fairness, Duncan Alexander, just responds with, "Lol." To which Arsenal Sanchez puts, "Something funny, you won't be laughing when them glasses are in pieces after I knock you clean out." Duncan responds with, and this is a joke based on Arsenal, I assume, "I hear you're quite threatening at Christmas, but by the spring you've sort of given up." And this Arsenal Sanchez has responded, I drop punks like you all year round. Tweets are being tracked. Watch your back." Duncan Alexander responds with, "You drop punks? Where? From an American cop series set in 1976. And I've gone through this because this is leading up to I think the best part of the dialogue. Arsenal Sanchez comes back with, "I'll come with 245s like it's 2:45. You won't know what's hit you. Now back off before I do something I regret." He just signs off with, "You're willing to use firearms over an issue involving Tom Cleverley. I have to say I admire this." I just wanted both of your thoughts on that, really.
Oh, it's brilliant. We've got to be careful though with Arsenal fans. There'll be a huge backlash.
Yeah.
Why is it always Arsenal fans that are
unique breed?
They provide this content for us. It does always seem to be Arsenal fans.
They are the most unbearable on social media, aren't they?
Yeah, I think there's just a lot of them.
I do like this. I'm similar. I love them like conversational tweets. It's ones that you can almost what better the whole 28-29 argument.
I do feel like you're becoming like this podcast Judge Judy on which of those is better, Dobby. So perhaps we should get some sort of a leaderboard set up for next week.
That's a great show.
That's a good idea, actually. I enjoyed that one. That would rank highly. It's not topping obviously number one. It could get beyond. At the minute, we've only got about 3 or 4 contenders, haven't we? But
has there been a better piece of writing than "I'll come with 245s like it's 2:45"? I just think that's just an amazing bit of writing.
Yeah, it is funny how like what provoked all this as well.
Just a simple reminder that Tom Cleverley has had it at that time assisted as many Premier League goals as Mesut Ozil. Obviously, it stirred something in this guy.
Is this guy still active on Twitter, or is he left it now?
Oh, is he still
Big
at?
Arsenal fan.
No, well, that's actually you've hit quite a sad part of the story actually there, Dobby, because somebody then on the conversation below just put that a screenshot of that guy's account, and it just said this Twitter user is no longer active. So it was a bit like, yeah, he's no longer. He's probably not starting any more arguments anyway. So we're talking this week about football documentaries. A number of, I think we can all sort of remember the famous football documentaries that have been made, sort of fly on the wall types down the years, varying degrees of quality. Lads, what are your favourite football documentaries?
Well, for me, there's sort of two types of football documentary. There's like the fly on the wall, like you've touched on there, Jack, and then there's like the cinematic sort of, like Maradona and the Gascoigne ones and Bobby Robson's ones, where they're interviewing players they've played with or players they've played under. I watched the Bobby Robson one a couple of days ago. That was quite moving.
Yeah, that's a really good one, actually.
That is for like that but from a personal and pure entertainment type of thing, it's got to be the fly on the wall documentaries, because you just, as a fan, you don't really get that a manager exposing himself, to be honest. Like,
I feel like it's the purest form of how you'll ever see how a club really runs.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously, like, I think as well, two types of the fly on the wall. So there's like the Man City one, the all or nothing. It was quite obvious that City had quite high editorial control in the content, and it sort of becomes a bit of a PR tool on how good Guardiola as a coach is. Whilst that's it. Yeah. But the best ones for me are the ones where the editorial control is taken to the broadcasting company. So like Netflix with Sunderland Till I Die is just absolutely superb in my opinion, because
it's everything that All or Nothing's City documentary isn't. It's the completely
agree. Yeah. It's exposing the players, it's giving the fans their true voice. The board, I think that's the best thing about Sunderland Till I Die, which is definitely my favourite, is that it exposes the board members for what they really are, and they don't really day to day have much of a clue as what's going on, and it just shows how shambolic that football club was ran.
It's scary, isn't it? Really, like the Sunderland one, arguably, like the club come out looking a hell of a lot. Well, they do come out looking a hell of a lot worse than the club after the series. Like it's exposure, it's great exposure, but Sunderland, who arguably are like a big club, and that you'd expect to be quite a professional outfit, and you'd back them to make a return up the division. I think after watching that, you just think, I don't know, it could be a long old slog down there.
It almost got worse in the second series, when obviously the new owners, Stuart Donald and I've forgotten the name of the chief executive, Charlie
Metzen, is it?
Yeah. It was just like, I mean, how when I saw that he did an interview like a week after the release, and he said, I don't really get why I've been called a David Brent type character. I just thought, you are the most lacking in self-awareness individual I've ever come across. I just couldn't. He was almost too good for, like, it was too perfect the way he spoke to people in the office. It was just like, who does he think he is?
I think that's why I loved it, because a huge fan of like Ricky Gervais's work and The Office in general. Like, we'll move on to it later. I've actually done a little bit of a quiz for you two of a football documentary or David Brent, because like you said, Jack, I'm a true believer in it actually exposes board members and managers that they're very similar to David Brent.
100%, yeah. I mean, go on.
The season 2 of the Sunderland is unbelievable, and you're right. There's just so many comparisons there to Brent. It's like we've got the one. So what's the main guy? The owner. What's his name?
Stuart Donald.
Yeah. So we've got Stuart, who kind of like, he wants to be successful. He knows he's kind of like took on a job that's probably, as he always refers to it, like they'll never get this opportunity again. It's because it's the lowest of the lows. Like, can afford to just about buy in and do it. And then you've got his sidekick, who's obviously just like Oxford or Cambridge educated. I think he spent a lot of time in like media, hasn't he?
I think he's
And
also spent a
then
lot of time in Ibiza as well, though, by the sounds of it. He's
And
got
then
like
he comes over
Ibiza
to-
promoter vibes.
And he just comes in and he's like, the focus is just on PR.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's all a big PR exercise, too.
Literally from like music to like marketing to ticket sales. It's like, how can we give away 40,000 tickets to make me look like a marketing genius?
I can't remember what someone says, but at one point, one of the like office admin bods, like ticket office assistants, like pipes up with an idea, and I can't even remember what the idea is. But his initial response is like, "Yeah, that's great," but my brain's just now thinking, "How can we turn that into money?" Like it's just like he's so obnoxious to the people who probably actually like when you get down to it, without sounding too romantic about it, these are probably the people that actually make a football club, really. And if you're just gonna treat them with like they're sort of like lackeys who are just running round for your PR plans, it's not going to get him very far. I mean, he's no longer with Sunderland, to be fair. But.
You see that the lady in it who works under him quite directly, doesn't she? From like PR and marketing side of things, and you just see her kind of like really coming to grips with like this new manager, and she looks really unsettled by it.
Yeah,
is that the one who like she must be going home at night and just saying to her partner like, "You're not gonna fucking believe it, like my new boss." And then 2 years later, they start watching it, and she's like, "Look, I told you he was a dickhead."
Where he says like he's got to count the tickets, doesn't he? He's got to make a stadium announcement on Boxing Day.
That's it. That's the one, trying.
And she's like, "Oh well, we haven't had it through the ticket office yet." And he's like, "I'm not going on the effing halfway line and making an announcement that's not factual. Tell me if it's over 40,000 or not."
Yeah. He's like, "Have we got the number? Have we got the number?"
We'll try our best. And he goes, no, you'll get the number.
Yeah. He's like, no, trying's not good enough at this point. I'm about to go on the pitch.
And there's a moment as well where I related to him more than I have done on anything, was when, because you hear it in every ground in the Football League, when Sunderland are I can't think if it's a playoff final or in the run up to it. Yeah, and it's a bit stale, and you just like the camera focuses on that Charlie guy, and he just goes, "Change it!" Like, that's your second senior board member shouting at the dugout.
Also, there's no way I've been to Wembley. There's no way you can hear on the touchline what some punter's shouting from the corporate boxes. There's no way.
It's just like every punter in the stand, isn't it?
Yeah, Jack Ross is not listening out for that advice in the first place, and like even his girlfriend or wife at the time has to tell him to calm down. It's like.
What I hope with that though, because like if you've been to Wembley, like it's that big. There's a silence like when there's a goal goes in. Do you know what I mean? It goes in. There's a silence. Then you hear the away fans. So hopefully, like the ball went out for a throw in. There's a bit of a pause, and then like you can just hear like 2 seconds later in Jack Ross's mind going, "Change it."
I don't know about you lads, but it's like one of the whenever you get these new documentary series, you had it in the Leeds one as well, where you have a bit of insight into the deadline day transfer market, and you obviously get a scene of that in the Sunderland documentary as well. And I think that's got to be one of the like highlights of just how like poorly like it's run and how panicked they were on that deadline day when it was the whole debate over whether they're going to be able to bring Will Grigg in, and I can't remember what the initial bid was at. But it just keeps going up as the night progresses, to the point where Jack Ross is on the phone saying to the owners like, "Don't bid any more than that. He's not worth that." And I think they're going like double from. I think it's like 1 or 2 million where he's saying, "Pull out, like don't go above that. You're not going to get the value." And then they end up going to like 4 million, don't they?
Yeah,
and
it's amazing because actually on that night, I think I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure, if memory serves, that Wigan like just ignored their latest call for like half an hour, and Wigan just were not responding and were just sat there basically. And then in that time, those two got panicked and were like, "Right, we'll double the offer." And like Wigan must have just been pissing themselves on the other end of the line. Like we've not even had to reject the bid, and we've got twice the money coming in.
The only thing I can just compare it to is like, have you ever been sat on the sofa and like you've gone to the fridge to get or to the cupboard and you got like a biscuit out, and then like you're like, "I'll have one," and then 20 minutes later you're going to go and have another one, and you find yourself just kind of what was initially that one biscuit.
Before you know it, you threw a pack of digestives.
You got the pack in front of you,
Yeah.
and it just feels a bit like that where they started with probably 500,000 bid, and then they were like, oh yeah, actually we'll go to 1 million. And then the next thing, you're waking up at 8 in the morning, you're like, fucking hell, just signed this lad for 4 million quid.
Yeah, it's like the classic waking up in the morning and like, what happened last night? What actually did happen?
The best, the best transfer scene I've seen on a documentary though has to be like the Sunderland Till I Die one's good, but the Barry. Have you seen the Barry Fry one before?
Oh yeah,
that is brilliant. Whereas deadline day in like 1997. He's got some guy coming from Wickham, I think it is, to sign for Peterborough, and he's literally like, as the clock strikes 12, Barry Fry's like, how much? And then he just whacks on the table, sold to the so-and-so in the blue suit.
Yeah, I saw a funny one the other day. I was watching the Warnock documentary, 45 minutes.
Oh, that's a classic.
On Warnock, and there's a slight 5-minute clip on transfers there, and he brings in Danny Webber on loan from Watford, and he's like just having a chat with him, and he asks him about a centre half who plays at Watford as well, and he's like, oh, and Danny Webber's like, yeah, he's out of favour, like he's been told he can go, and he's like, oh, fancy him, like you got his number, like, do you reckon he'll fancy it? He's like, yeah, I really fancy him. And then he gets, Danny Webber's just a bit like, yeah, like, here's his number. So Warnock's just taking note of it and just like speaking to himself like, yeah, we'll have him, he'll be all right.
That's the most like Sunday League like recruitment policy, isn't it? It's like, oh, get one in, then if you've got any mates who can play.
Yeah, it was literally like, do you reckon he'll be up for it? Like,
that is a
great thing about that watching them go. I think let's go on to that series. I watched that the other day. I don't know if you guys had a chance to actually watch that like documentary episode in its full. I know there's like clips that do the.
Is it just one episode? 'Cause I've never seen that.
I've only seen bits and like the comparisons with Guardiola and stuff like that. I've only seen little bits of it.
Yes, so there's actually what's more commonly seen is the 5-minute clips that do the rounds on the internet that are just little segments that have been taken from about a 45-minute fly on the wall almost episode just following Neil Warnock at Sheffield United in the Championship, I think back in around 2004, 2005. Like it is just it almost feels like a spoof at times, like The Office. You just think it's just too funny and just too. Neil Warnock's just so common in his day-to-day attitude, and he takes that into the dressing room as well. It's like there's a scene where he walks in and he's having a chat with Michael Tongue, and he's like, "Oh, remind me that we need to get aircon fitted in here next season."
That's what I like. I like a documentary like that because it's like the manager really is managing everything. He's not just like focusing on the first team football side of things. He's having to like worry about the aircon.
I think the thing is, he probably doesn't need to worry about it, but he does. He's just that busy kind of person. I think he sees himself as a bit of a father figure to his players. Like team bonding is quite evidently like a huge thing for Warnock. He takes them all to Scarborough, and his explanation behind it is like, "Oh, I love Scarborough because obviously he managed there, and some of the players are saying, I think we think he likes it because he gets free fish and chips. He brings us to this place, so he drums up the business at all these local eateries, and then when he goes back on his holidays, he gets free fish and chips. But he's got them running into the sea, like just in the boxes, and he considers that like team building, and it's just really old school. It's literally and from what I hear, so Warnock lives down in Cornwall nowadays, but he's obviously manager at Middlesbrough, and he flies up every now and he's getting space to fly up for a couple of days midweek to manage. But he just loves Cornwall that much. He obviously commutes from there, but he takes every season, and apparently he did it at Leeds, he takes the squads down to Cornwall for pre-season, just because it's like his favourite bit of the country, and I think he just wants
and it's also on his doorstep.
And I think it's just such a
COVID secure tour. To be fair, like it's probably a lot more common this year.
What I love about Warnock is that if you were and that documentary and like the clips on social media really sort of like amplify this. If you were a fan of a club he's managed, like a rival fan, say, you'd absolutely hate him. And it's like Chef Wednesday fans, I imagine in 2005, absolutely hated the bloke, but like if you're a neutral like myself, like I actually really love him. I just like what a bloke. Like some of the stories that come out, like allegedly he's, you know, like back in the day, like places on the bench went to like highest bidders and stuff like that. And you know, I've heard on other podcasts where players have said that a red card was a blank check to Neil Warnock and stuff like that.
Yeah. That's like, a great phrase, isn't it? Red card was a blank check.
Have you seen that? Is it Paul Pesci-Solido one where he's like, it's team bonding, and he's like, Warnock, he agreed to take us bowling, a tenner in, like all the lads, you know, winner takes all, and then just as we're about to start, Neil Warnock puts his own bowling shoes on and gets his own ball out.
I've not seen that.
Finishes with a full strike, pretty much. The full house nearly.
He's
bowled a perfect game.
I've got. If you've not watched it, I'll send you the link, lads. It's only about 45 minutes, but the best way to describe it is like it's like a Peter Kay series, but of a football manager, and you generally think it is just like a Peter Kay dressed up, the way his character acts. I think there was a scene as well. He's down at he lives in Cornwall. His local church is obviously near Plymouth. And he goes to church on a Sunday, and they're playing Plymouth away at Plymouth that upcoming Saturday, and he's giving away tickets at the church to like all his mates. There's like a load of 78-year-old women. He's like, "Oh, do you fancy coming down to the match on Saturday?"
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I think, but one of the best bits from that series is like some of his touchline antics, and he's so verbal in the ear of the fourth official and the ref, and a few of them have a quick interview on there, and some of them like it and can deal with it. I think others really struggled to get to grips with it. But there was one clip where he's really going at the fourth official, the ref, and the linesman. The linesman flags something or doesn't flag for something, and he shouts at one of his subs. I think it's like, "Shorey, go warm up," and let the line know he should be flagging there. So he sends one of his subs to go warm up down the touchline to get in the linesman's ear to let him know he should have been flagging.
Oh, it's fighting on many fronts, that. I love that.
I mean, I should probably have mentioned this at the start, but I mean, one of the reasons football docs are quite sort of in vogue at the moment is, I don't know if either of you two have seen much of the new All or Nothing, focusing on Tottenham from last season. But like, there are some absolute gems in there. Mourinho, I don't know, have either of you two seen the clip of Mourinho reacting to pundits discussing his appointment?
Yeah, super.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
I don't know if it's like, I don't know, they don't seem like real pundits to me. They seem like, or even like phone-in callers. I don't know, they just seem like they're saying the most generic football speak ever. Like, oh, he's, you know, he plays a bit defensive, but he gets the job done, and he's got a good track record in terms of trophies. It just seems like the most like base level analysis of Mourinho's career. So I don't know if it was just put in for the cameras, but
that's my question to you two. Do you think if you was a manager, you'd allow the cameras in? And then secondly, do you think on all these ones that have been on in the past, do you think there's an element of playing up to the cameras and an ego to it?
Well, I think they're obviously quite selective on just how much so it appears quite fly on the wall, and well, not fly on the wall, but quite up close and personal. But you watch the Tottenham series and all the dressing room, like halftime talks, pre-match talks, all the access you get on the training pitch. It just all seems very basic, as if the conversations they're having is almost something you would prep talk your under 10 team with the kind of motivation to go out on the pitch and do it. So it doesn't.
I think you're massively underestimating, Dobby, how organised my under 10 team will be in 10 years' time. Like, picture Pulis 2008, we'll be drilled. Sorry, so good.
I don't doubt it. But yeah, so it does at times it is quite up close and personal, and you get to see some good fallout in there. But when it actually comes to, as I say, in the changing rooms on the training pitch, you don't really get any insight into the tactical side of things. So they obviously are quite selective on what they're allowing to see, and I imagine they're also being quite selective on what kind of entertainment they're going to allow to be in there as well.
Yeah, I did like that there were clearly like cameras that were built in. You know, I wouldn't say hidden cameras, but cameras that weren't, you know, obvious cameras in all the different rooms of the training ground. So, like, you know, for example, I thought it was a nice little sort of inside feature to know that Daniel Levy just has his breakfast in the canteen with all the players.
Yeah,
I just found like that's such a bizarre thing. Like, you couldn't imagine most bosses of companies like just sat there, you know, and like he's just saying to Christian Eriksen, "Oh yeah, we'll have a meeting later about your contract. Come to my office later." Like, you just don't. I don't know. You don't expect football to work like that anymore, particularly at that level. Like,
you do get a really good from these series. You do get a good insight into like the personalities and of the players and the board and even the management team and really what it must be like day to day. Take away the tactical side of things. I do feel like you get a real good, interesting insight into like personalities, and I definitely agree with you. Like Daniel Levy, you find out quite a lot about him as a person. I find
you do
through
actually,
that, whether just how his relationship is with the players. As you say, he's probably around them every day, actually, like eating and
he comes across quite well in the whole thing, I think, Levy.
I thought so, actually, quite surprisingly. I didn't expect him to. At the first episode, I thought he was going to involve himself just because he would really love to involve himself. I thought he was going to be that kind of person.
A bit like Stuart Donald.
But
he's probably a bit more switched on, isn't he? That's he's a bit more self-aware. My favourite part of the doc, which was from the last round of episodes that were released. So the players obviously have been away on lockdown during April and May, and when they come back for training in June, Dele Alli delights one of the medical staff by saying, Lucas Moura starts it off by saying, "Yeah, I learnt to cook loads during lockdown. I was cooking all the time. It was like my new routine." And then Dele Alli chips in with, "Yeah, I made beans on toast last night. Never knew it was so easy." And the woman from the medical staff says to him, "Yeah, well, obviously all you do is put them in a pan." And then before the word pan can even leave her mouth, he's already going, microwave. I just chucked him in the microwave. It's like it's just such a like. I don't know what's going on in Dele Alli's head. Is what I learned from that documentary.
He's always on the massage table, isn't he? He's always like asking them questions of like, what would be your top 3 chocolate bars? He's one of them kind of guys.
Yeah, I don't know if the physios enjoy that, or whether you think secretly they're just like, "Oh, fucking hell, give it a rest, Dele."
I reckon that.
Imagine that with like a double leg break, and then the physio's just looking at the leg and stuff like that. Oh, double decker.
I think.
Yeah, Hong-Min Son's laid up on the table, leg in 2 pieces, and Dele Alli's like nudging him, going, "No, but seriously, what is your favourite chocolate bar? Like, I really need to."
While we're on the physios, I think you really do just get you become really aware of just how much like an annoyance and a nuisance the physio team is to Jose Mourinho. Like it's the kind of person where he'll be really friendly with everybody around him, and then the head physio approaches him and he'll just like shut down completely and like be focusing on something else, like be half involved in the conversation, and it's just like, I think Mourinho just sees the physios as just people out to get him, as in just put obstacles in his way.
I saw that.
He's not going to be fit, and he's like, well, we need him fit. He wants to play. And
that clip, Dobby, of where I think they're having to reveal Harry Kane's how bad Harry Kane's injury is, and the physio has to do sort of a nervous walk across the training pitch, and like Mourinho's in the middle of doing drills and like still shouting out instructions as the poor physio's having to give him the analysis on the injury. It's like, I agree. He's clearly pissed. Injuries clearly piss off Mourinho.
Yeah, I found that to be funny, and it was the same with Son's arm when I think he has like a potential break in his arm, which initially they just think it's a bruise, and there's just this real awkward conversation. I bet you can imagine the physio having to approach this like, fucking hell, like he's not going to be happy with it. And Mourinho he quite clearly makes it known, like physios, like just, you're not my favourite staff members, basically.
I get that impression.
Did you see the clip as well where he walks into one of the analysis sessions, and he lets them all know that he's a bit down, but he's not down because of them. It's because his dog died on Christmas Eve, And it's obviously quite sad, but it's just so funny how he announces it.
It's not that I'm not laughing at the dog dying. It's just the way he breaks it to the team. It's just like, because they're so sort of confused by it, and they're like, "Oh right." Well, they don't really know how to react. Like, I think Harry Kane mumbles a few words about, "Oh, what sort of dog was it?" But it's all very sort of like low-level sympathy because it's clearly sprung a surprise on them.
He's really emotional about it. And you do think a tear's coming. You think we're going to see a tear in a minute, and it just gives him a heads up. Like, I'm down today. It's not because of anything you've done. And he goes, "My dog's become a big part of the family. Like, my dog's died. It was on fucking Christmas Eve. Like, I had this dog for 13 years, and it died on fucking Christmas Eve." And I couldn't see him in tears in a minute.
Yeah, to be fair, that is the sort of like co-worker or housemate that's good to have, I suppose. Like, I'm a bit down today, but I'll tell you why. Like, it's nothing you've done.
What else we got then? Any other? What about you, Jack? What's one of your favourite documentaries?
I was going to ask you about, like, both of you. I don't know if you've seen the Leeds United one, but obviously as a Leeds fan, I'd be interested to know your views on that. I sort of like, just from the outset, I just kind of found Russell Crowe's narration slightly not jarring, but just a bit odd. Like, I don't really. He's sort of like bringing some Hollywood glamour to it, but like it's just for championship games. I'm not sure it's like. Does it fit? I don't know if it fits with the whole image of like the rough and hardness of English football at the championship. But what were your thoughts on it?
No, that's a good point actually. I never really thought of it like that. But yeah, it does bring a big slice of Hollywood to LS11, the hallmark. So it's decent. Probably could have done with a deep Yorkshire accent doing the overview. But yeah, obviously that's a popular one for me. Yeah, I watched that first thing in the morning and last thing at night daily, being a Leeds fan, obviously.
What did you reckon
apart from that last episode?
What did you reckon to the Daniel James one?
Yeah, I was going to say that.
That was like where he's signing on deadline day and then like he's in the bloody shirt and then they still manage to, it doesn't go through.
And he's devastated as well, isn't he? Like, that's the thing.
Yeah, he looks gutted.
Yeah. Him and Victor Orr are having a bit of a cry at each other. They're in each other's arms, like Victor Orr in tears. Like, we'll see you in June. It's like that holiday romance. Like when we get home, we'll see each other every other week.
The big reunion at Butlins.
Yeah, it'll go in no time. This term will go in no time.
It's another one of them transfer scenes that do give you a really good insight into what goes on and just how chaotic deadline day can be. And I think watching that, I think the world can see just how passionate and Victor Orr is as a director at Leeds, and we've got, I think, Leeds fans maybe a bit cautious at first when he joined us, but absolutely love him now. I think his recruitment's been probably 70% of the time spot on, which I think is, from what I hear in today's analytics, if you can get 1 in 6,
pretty good,
you've done well in transfer. So he's got a really good recruitment record, but just his passion that he brings to it, and it's quite evident in that scene there with Daniel James. But it is mad how literally you got a player sat there at 11 p.m, all the contracts out in front of him, and then the clock's ticking, and there's just this nervousness because there's no answer at Swansea's end. I think it needs Hugh Jenkins to give the official sign off.
Yeah, Hugh Jenkins just bloody switches his phone off, doesn't he? And then there's owners in America. I just think football can be a hard place to do. What in theory should be a simple deal.
I think we spoke previously, haven't we, about like the reliance on a fax machine in 2020 still. Like that. I think we mentioned that in episode 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can be the deadline day does, for how advanced football is nowadays. Like, deadline day does feel really old school, that you've just got 2 people over the telephone to each other, like with 10, 20 minutes to go, and then just a fax being sent over. You've had 30 days to get business done, and then all of a sudden it comes down to these people on the M1 going from Watford to having Watford to Newcastle to sign on the final afternoon. But go on. Sorry, Jack.
No, I was just going to say, in terms of one of the things I liked about the Sunderland documentary was that you sort of got to see an insight into their fan base as well. And to be fair, I think it was a pretty semi-accurate representation. Like they chose good fans to be on TV.
Yeah.
Man City and Tottenham's All or Nothing docs are very cleansed, and like you don't really see that side of the fans. And I'm just trying to remember what the lead. You know, do you feel like they pitched Leeds right as what the football club's about, or?
Yeah, I think they did, and I think it's a very like diverse fan base really, but the core of it is quite like proud Yorkshire, like where they kind of heart on the sleeve Leeds fans and where they're from, and there's definitely a few representatives of that in there. I mean, one guy, one of the greatest quotes in there, I think it's, and you see it in the advert for it. I think it's like I can't remember what he ranks it, but it's like marriage, kids, Leeds United, something like that. And there's like kids in front of him, and he like features heavily throughout it. You just think, fuck, like big statement, like fair play.
Just in front of them as well is like quite sort of like to the face, like I'm not messing around.
Imagine he wakes them up to march on together 7 o'clock for school.
I think if I was a kid that was like that, my dad was that much of a fanatical fan, I think I'd end up growing with like a secret hatred for like football, just because I feel like it would just put me under so much. Like there's so much pressure to be fanatic, to be that fanatical. I'm not talking about just being a regular fan. Like I'm talking about the obsessed to the ridiculous extent. So I just feel like there's too much pressure.
Yeah. I think one of the best features though from the league, it's not from particularly a fan perspective, but obviously Calvin Phillips being a homegrown player for us, born a Leeds fan. You see photos of him doing the rounds on social media in a Leeds kit when he's like 5. So obviously everyone's quite proud that you've got a Leeds fan now, one of the best players in the team, and even playing at international level. But the documentary does a small feature with his family as well, like a lot of them do. But I guess obviously having an invested interest in Leeds and Calvin, you feel like that. Them clips are really quite nice and really insightful, and you see interviews with his
gran was happy, wasn't she? Was it his gran?
Yeah, his grandma and his mum, and it makes you realise like footballers are superstars, and he's gone on to get an England cap, and he'll go on to play in the Premier League for years to come and earn a lot of money. But at the end of the day, he was just like a young lad brought up in Leeds, like as a working class family. I think single mum maybe. I'm not entirely sure. And just a really close-knit family. You can see how close they are, and just how like proud they are of him really, and just how proud he is to just be doing them proud. And I saw a clip as well on Twitter the other day following his England cap, and it was his nan again, and she was explaining when he gave her the call to explain to her that in Gareth Southgate had just rang him, and she goes, "Oh, Calvin's." So yeah, he rang me the other day, said, "I've got some news for you." And she's like, "You're getting married?" And he's like, "No." She's like, are you having a baby? And he's like, "No." And she's like, "Well, what is it then? Like, what is it?" And he's like, "Oh, Gareth Southgate rang me and I've got an England call up." And then she's just nearly in tears after, and you think, I like them little insightful bits, because it does bring footballers back down to, it does make you remember just where they've come from and how proud they must be and the family must be.
It is good when the family, like you say, when the families you get the insight as a sort of fan on the person behind the player, don't you? That's what I quite like about documentaries and like the fly on the wall angle. You
get to see the other side of football, which I think will lead us also onto your quiz coming up, Tracy. Just to go back to the Sunderland Till I Die. One of my favourite bits that we haven't mentioned yet, that I'd feel terrible if we forgot, was the brilliant clips of Jack Rodwell basically sat in the physio room saying that he would
with a cigar on,
not in kit, and just saying, "I'm not going to be training today, lads.
It's 50 grand a week, lads. I'm not going anywhere." Thank you.
That's the other side of how professional footballers can or can't be. Like, he's the worst end of the scale, but that was an amazing insight into
the club has given him the contract there. Though, like,
I kind of back him up on that.
You're not gonna go somewhere, for less money.
At that point, no one would have taken him, would they? Like, I say no one. Someone would have taken him, but for probably a tenth of his wage because of how injury riddled.
Yeah. If he's on a 3-year deal on 50 grand a week at Sunderland, he's well within his rights to sit there and ask for his money every week. But I think he probably tipped the balance though, didn't he? Really, he's entitled to do, like I said, to sit there and get his money, but you've got to sort of show an interest to want to play football, I think, and I think that's where the Sunderland fans have turned against him, is that he just sort of showed no interest of getting himself fit or
making himself available.
Which is brilliantly shown in the documentary about how, cause it just shows you the side by side. 1 minute it's a clip of Jack Rodwell saying I'm not going to play, and the next second it's the taxi driver who's a season ticket holder, and he's fuming. He's foaming at the mouth because Jack Rodwell won't even go on the training pitch. It's it's such a well edited documentary.
Before we move off documentaries, there's one that I can't give much of an insight into it because there's very little about it on the internet, but I remember watching it when I was about 10 years old, and it was a TV series that focused on Steve Claridge as, I think, either manager or player manager at Weymouth. And what was it called? Let me have a quick look. I just found an article on it a minute ago. It was called The Football Diaries, and it was on BBC Two. And it follows the progress of Weymouth, Reading, and Chelsea through the season. And a lot of it just featured Steve Claridge just swearing in a shithole changing room in Weymouth. And I remember thinking at the time, as a 10-year-old, who on earth is this guy? And obviously, 5 years later, I see him sat there with Manish on the football highlights, and I was this is Steve Claridge, done 540 games playing for every man and his dog, and.
But I feel that's what's weird about it. I've not seen that documentary. I've only seen Claridge in Football League show form, and I feel like he's got this whole other side to him that it might disappoint me if I see it. Is it just so he's just ranting at these non-league players, basically?
Yeah, it's such a vivid memory because it was so long ago, and it's almost gone under the radar. There's one article that I can find online. And it's Steve Claridge shamed by telly for my late diary entry. So is obviously feels he's been represented badly by this BBC Two documentary. But I do remember him being quite hostile with it. So I feel like he's maybe it's many years ago now. But I do remember him being quite a hostile character. But yeah, there's one Daily Mirror article where he feels a bit hard done by this series. But whether or not you can find anything online to actually find the series, I don't know. If anyone can find that or can remember that series, I'd love to know.
That does sound
it's very David Brent. That is, where David Brent's 8 hours a day they filmed here, and 20 minutes that made me look a plonker on telly.
Yeah, which is exactly what Charlie from the Sunderland Till I Die documentary said as well.
The edit's very powerful, Jack.
Well, are you going to give us this quiz then, Tracy, to see if we can tell the difference between Brent?
Yeah, I will do. It's basically, it is 6 questions, 6 quotes. It's going to be, you two have to decipher whether it's a football documentary or a David Brent quote, and we'll give you a bonus point if you can decipher the person who's actually said it as well.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I'm on board for that. Hit me with the first quote.
My role is to imagine things, to feel things, and then to express those things. Is that a David Brent quote or a football documentary quote?
Can I hear that again, please?
You can, for the benefit of the tape, yeah.
Are we head to head on this, by the way? If we're head to head on this, I'm not happy about
that. Well, you can. Oh, yeah, you are head to head. Sorry, I forgot to say that, but I will repeat it. I will repeat it. My role is to imagine things, to feel things, and then to express those things.
I can't remember Brent saying that. And I feel like maybe he did. It does sound like something Brent would say. But I can't remember him
that's
saying
the beauty of this quiz, Jack. It's very, very hard to decipher.
But I love The Office, but I probably don't know every single line as religiously as I could. So I'm going to say... I'm still going to stick with Brent, though. I'm going to go Brent.
See, I'm edging towards Brent, but I'm going to go Brent, yeah. I think it's Brent.
Answers locked in. Okay. My role is to imagine things, to feel things, and then to express those things. Is a quote from Charlie from Sunderland Till I Die.
no!
Ibiza dance anthems, loving director.
Oh, of course,
That
yeah.
is a killer.
It's
I
so
should've
David
got
Brent.
I probably know
Of
the
course it is.
Sunderland documentary as well as I know The Office. So I can't believe I've missed that. That's a fantastic quote. That is genius.
I think it is tough because it is just so Brent.
Well, that's the beauty of football documentaries, isn't it? They expose the true David Brentness.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Right, okay, 0-0 then after one. Let's go. John.
That's irritated.
Sometimes they ask you things about life, and then you must adopt the role of a father, of a brother, of a son.
I'm going
is
to go Brent.
I think that is Brent.
That is Senor Pep Guardiola.
No. Wow.
I've really messed this up. I can't believe right. Okay. I mean,
So-
Pep does say quite a lot of earnest
Foreign Brent.
stuff. in-
David Brentos. Question 3. If it's in you, I'll find it. That's actually what I do. I just point out what you've already got. I'm a spiritual guide.
I feel like nothing's obvious after the first two.
No,
tries.
yeah,
If it's religion, if he's mentioned religion, then that must
you
be
mention
that's
religion?
Brent does that a bit, doesn't he? In The Office, he talks
Wait,
about.
what was the quote again? Sorry.
If it's in you, I'll find it. That's actually what I do. I just point out what you've already got. I'm like a spiritual guide.
Spiritual, yeah.
I'm gonna go.
Religion.
Not Brent. I don't think it's Brent.
Jack, what are you saying?
Well, I feel like just sheer probabilities mean that I should go Brent, but I'm sticking with Brent. Just surely one of them's got to be in.
So
Maths now.
the point goes to Jack Lacey. That is, of course, Senor David Brent.
I feel guilty about that. My tactics are not really in the spirit of the game, but yeah. Right, let's go again. I want to get at least 2 right.
Sorry. Compose yourself. My life is devotion. It's all part of the dance.
See, that could be Charlie from Sundown Till I Die, because I know he's into his dance music.
I'm gonna go not Brent.
Is there like an option of who the person is, Tracy, or is it just?
I couldn't.
Do
tell you
I get a
who-
bonus point for saying who
Yeah,
it is?
yeah, you can get a bonus point. Yeah,
sorry,
we'll offer that. Yeah.
That rule was forgotten only because neither of us have been close to guessing the right person so far. Yeah, I'm going non-Brent, but I don't know what my guess is going to be.
Yeah, I don't know. which
Okay,
way.
you're both right. It's a football-related quote. Can you take a stab in the dark at who you think said it, with a very Brent-esque character? Maybe I've given too much away. I don't know.
I don't think there's any chance of that with us, based on our guesses so far.
I'm gonna go for Stuart from Sundown Till I Die. Maybe.
Oh, I'm going to go with I'm going to go Pep Guardiola.
It's actually Brendan Rodgers. Being Liverpool.
We need to talk about Being Liverpool because that is an incredible football
It
documentary.
slips under the
That's one of my
radar,
best.
doesn't it?
We're going to come back to that in a second. Let's go for the quiz first.
So what's that? 2-1. Is that to you, Jack? Yeah.
Yeah, I think
2 to go. I think a good idea is a good idea forever.
Yeah, that's Brent. That's David Brent, I reckon.
Yeah, I think that's Brent.
That's correct. You're both right. That's a gimme. That if you've watched
Yeah.
any Netflix or The Office
It's the
in your
way
time.
it's with on the training one, isn't it? I mean, he just sort of jumps in behind that guy, like who's trying to explain something else completely different, and he just says, "A good idea is a good idea forever."
Yeah. Right. 3-2. Last one. I've always said you can live without water for many days, but you can't live for a single second without hope. Is that David
gotta
Brent
be-
or a football?
I'm going to stick my nail on the head and say that is Pep Guardiola. Sounds like something
gonna-
you'd say.
I'm gonna just to try and stay in and get a draw out of this. I'm gonna have to oppose that and go Brent and just hope I can.
Well, it's a
Like,
football
it's-
quote, so Jack is the winner of today's
Ah.
quiz.
Yes.
but the actual person features for a second time, and it's Mr. Brendan Rodgers yet again in Being Liverpool. Well, I don't actually know if that was from Being Liverpool, but that was on a Liverpool Echo article about the documentary.
I mean, I'm so glad you've reminded me of that documentary, Trice, because I do feel we can come back to this topic another week, but we have to talk a little bit about how good that his performance on that is as good as any manager in any football documentary. I don't know if either of you two have seen it, but do you remember the clip where he he holds an envelope at a pre-season dinner and says, "Now, lads, on this envelope, I've written 3 names, and they're the 3 players I think are going to let us down this season." And it was supposed to be a motivational technique, but you could just see in the players' faces, they're just staring at him, just like, "What the fuck? What is going on here?"
See, I've not seen this.
It was on ages ago, yeah. Brendan Rodgers' first few weeks in the job, I think.
There's a good clip from, he does his first team talk before they play West Brom, which I think they get trounced in, by the way, lose 3-0 or something. And he's like, you've got to remember 3 things. You can only remember these 3 things. And then he lists 4 different things. He's including you trust your family, you trust the supporters because they're the best, and it's just just goes off on a trail of different things, different people they need to remember to trust. It's they're about to play West Brom. They need to deal with Lukaku and Zoltan-Gera.
Is it worth a watch? I might have to hunt this one, find this one. Is it worth a watch?
Oh, I'd say it's as funny as Sunderland Till I Die on reflection. It was on Channel 5 as well, which just gave it that extra sort of naff appeal.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have a look at that.
Is there any... I don't want to miss any out before we go. I should just quickly mention as well. I mean, I know we've talked about it a bit already, that it was quite sort of more of an advert for Man City than a proper insightful documentary, but the All or Nothing Man City series does give it one brilliant clip, which is when after they lose to Manchester United 3-2 at home, chucking the 2-0 lead away in the second half. Fabian Delph comes into the changing room moaning about the performance and keeps telling everyone that they've just forgotten the basics of football. And just really hammering this point home about the base. Pep Guardiola's halfway through a talk, and he just says, "No, but boss, we've just forgotten the basics of football." And there's a great YouTube video which just isolates that clip, and it's called Fabian Delph explaining the basics of football to Pep Guardiola, which I just had to mention. Any others, Tracy?
I watched one recently, actually. It's not very comical. It's actually quite heavy. It's called Forever Pure. I'll put the links out on Twitter and stuff later on this week. It's basically about Beitar Jerusalem, who are closely aligned with the right wing of Israel. And so basically, this club prides himself on Jewish-only players. And then the chairman, who's Russian, does some business deal with a Chechen Muslim, and part of that business deal is that two players from Chechnya FC or whatever have to come and play for Beitar Jerusalem, and the abuse they get is just wow, it's shocking. One of them, I don't want to do him a disservice by pronouncing his name wrong. Zawa Sadayev, he's a striker and he scores and the ground empties, and it proper opened my eyes it's only an hour and a half long, but in that hour and a half there's a problem.
Emptied out of distaste for the player.
Yeah, because they were that appalled that a player who wasn't Jewish had scored for the club. I couldn't believe it. It's so inside, and I know we've gone sort of a light-hearted approach, in the past hour or so with different documentaries, but I think also as well, football documentaries do give you an insight into the darker side of football as well. Yeah. And you think there's a problem in this country with stuff like that, but it looks like in that part of the world it is potentially toxic for racism, hatred, bigotry. really insightful. Recommend watching it because it just shows you how dark football can go.
Yeah.
That is mental.
No, it does sound interesting.
Free to watch as well on YouTube. So.
Really?
All right. Yeah, we'll give that a go. What's it called? What's the team called again that it's following?
Beitar Jerusalem, I think they're called. I think they actually got into the Europa League a couple of seasons ago, but
Some good money.
Yeah, Forever Pure it's called. Give it a watch if you're wanting something non-Neil Warnock swearing at Danny Webber.
Yeah, definitely.
That's a really poignant documentary to mention, Trice, I think. And it might not fit in with every the other sort of approach we've taken tonight, but I definitely will give that a watch. Yeah.
What about you two? Any you've been watching? Or we covered them all?
I had another one written down that I was gonna maybe chuck in there, and because I was initially gonna mention the Maradona one, which I caught on TV not too long back. Then it reminded me of the George Best documentary I watched probably about 5 years ago. I don't know if either of you watched that. I think it was called All by Himself, and I thought it was just mental of just how this. I think he turned up in Manchester as like a 17-year-old living like with a landlady at this house, just this really shy young lad starting out his professional football career. By the age of 22, he's Europe. I think he wins the award for like top player in Europe, and is just on the road to being like a global superstar, isn't he?
Yeah.
Well, he's a rock star as well, isn't he? That's the beauty of it.
It's just. I thought it was absolutely mad to see the journey of like his life.
I think him and his mate, who he came over from Belfast with, didn't they nearly run back home after 2 weeks because they were homesick?
Yeah,
it's just crazy. Sort of what players how they dealt with new arrivals back then.
That was the only other one that I was going to make mention of, and I thought, but if anybody wants to find out a little bit more about, as you say, some of the darker sides and as a football, really the journey that a footballer goes on, from starting out as a child and then becoming one of the biggest superstars in the world. That's definitely one I'd recommend to people.
I was going to end on a slightly light-hearted one and talk about essential lockdown viewing. I consider it ITV's Harry's Heroes. I don't know if either of you two have watched this over the past couple of months. For those who don't know, the premises is that Harry Redknapp takes a sort of England legends team. I don't even know if you call them a legends team, just older players that might have had the odd cap for England, or in some cases not. And
they were available that week.
I mean, exactly, were available for the recording purposes that week, Dobby. Exactly, you hit the nail on the head. And I probably can't do justice to what a brilliant masterpiece of TV it is in the time we've got left. But I will quickly say that my only issue with the strangeness of the documentary. So they build up to this big final match against the Germans. They always call them the Germans. It's never it's never we're playing Germany. It's always the Germans. Like, it's clearly sort of ITV's attempt to revive the Blitz spirit. My only issue is when they're in the dressing room before the game. Like, the whole theme has been throughout the series is the players' fitness. You know, who's going to be fit in time for the big final match. Like, who's carrying a knock, etc. And it turns out that Redknapp's only got like 8 fit players by the end to start this big final match. So there's like a really quick sort of cut scene where it's, but don't worry, because I've roped in 5 other ex-players to cover the gaps or something like that. And it's just like these 5 sort of playing cards of like Alan Kennedy, Darius Vassell. All these like sort of really left field selections come in to cover the spots for England, and it's just the weirdest, like clumsiest bit of editing I've seen on a TV program for a long time.
I love that on Series 1, Jack. I loved that because like they had the game again at the end, and obviously like they've got the core group who had got the personalities like Laetitia Merson and stuff like that, but none of those could actually last 90 minutes, so they have to rotate it. And then if you actually saw the credits at the end, it would say, like, with special thanks to Steve Howey.
It's like additional players, yeah. It's like additional players.
And Lee Henry.
Alan Kennedy, by the way, is one of those additional players. Now, Alan Kennedy when he came on the TV, I was like, that can't be the Alan Kennedy who used to play for Newcastle and Liverpool, because surely he would be in his 70s by now. And I checked, and it was that Alan Kennedy. Like, that is, and he's 68 or 69, and he was out there playing full. Surely it wasn't a 90-minute game, but it must, a fairly lengthy 11-a-side match against the Germans. At one point, he makes a mistake. He Clive Tilsey says, "Oh, Alan Kennedy's going the wrong way here," and he makes a back pass that gets caught in the mud, and then nearly lets the Germans in for a goal. And it was that was one of the more comical moments of TV during lockdown for me, and I feel like we should do a full episode on that whole documentary at some stage.
I never actually finished watching the second series. I think I watched up to, is it Michael Owen who turns up as the striker and then disappears after 20 minutes?
That's it.
It's like, I've called him Michael Owen. And
they're always bringing in these one-off specials, Dobby. Like the next episode, it was Vinnie Jones, who actually played for Wales when he was a footballer. But there's like, oh yeah, we've got Vinnie Jones in for one game, and he's roughing up the Italians.
Yeah, I'll have to finish it, and I'd be well up for giving that a bit of a review. I did find it funny.
Yeah. We'll dedicate a full show down the road to Harry's Heroes, no doubt about it. But I think that's a good outing in the bar tonight, lads. Have we enjoyed that?
Yeah, good. Thanks, mate. Yeah, you got any Pele gossip? What's your? Yeah,
I feel like I've not really brought my A grade argument to tonight's show, and I don't want to spout. I don't want to bring down the rest of my argument by spouting out any old B-rate Pele nonsense, but I know that you've got something to test me on.
Yeah, the reason why I've asked you is because I'm prepared and done some research. Well, I don't want it to be an anti-Pele podcast. I think we're balanced.
Which is what I want.
I've already apologised to Virgin Media, and I think Jack's apology to Pele could be on the cards. This is a quote. I'm not big on the quotes today. From England's World Cup winning captain Bobby Moore. The most complete player I've ever seen. What's your thoughts on that, Jack? Is he a valuable source? Or?
I mean, was he definitely talking about Pele? He wasn't looking at Bobby Charlton and Pele was sort of in the way, and Pele just claimed that he was saying it about him. Is it direct from Bobby Moore?
Yeah, from the horse's mouth on Pele.
Yeah.
It's not a Wikipedia quote, is it? Because as we all know, that's not that can't be used as a reference.
Pele's editing his own Wikipedia in this.
Yeah. It's like when there was a big news story the other week, Pele just secretly added 6 goals to his Wikipedia page while no one was checking. I'm not sure. I will take that as some sort of counter evidence, Trice. So thanks for bringing that to my attention. But then I also feel like, is it going to be like these, was it the Zidane quote about Paul Scholes? Or someone quoted a player quoted something about Paul Scholes, and it was like, oh yeah, he's the greatest player ever. And then it turned out they never actually said it. I can't think of what the example is now, but I just wonder, I can imagine Pele sort of pushing that in the media. Like, oh yeah, Bobby Moore said this about me.
My final bit of reference, Jack, is just that this is a fact. At 17, he became the youngest ever winner of a World Cup. He also scored twice in the final against Sweden. No.
Yeah, no, there's no disputing that one.
I'm disappointed in you there. I thought.
Well, actually, though, I did once read an interesting article on 442, and I don't know if I ever shared this with you, Dobby, at university or something. I feel like I might have passed it around at a few house parties.
What a rocking night!
442. You might appreciate this, Tracy. I think 442 did an article that claimed the biggest conspiracy theory in football was that the 1958 World Cup in Sweden never actually happened, and that it was all staged. Football. I found it here. Football's greatest ever hoax was the 1958 World Cup faked by the CIA. So, and considering that is the tournament where Pele is 17, taking the host nation apart in the final. It's still even that's under question. I'll send you. I'll put this out. I'm going to put this article up on the socials and send it to you two both, because I think this could make an episode in its own as well.
So I've never heard that before. That's
you're saying, Jack,
are you sure I've not shared it with you?
No.
Because you don't want to justify that Pele was the youngest World Cup winner ever. and scored 2 in the final at 17, you're claiming his inclusion with the CIA to create a hoax to boost his own profile, or?
Well, I'm not saying I don't. I want to stop short of saying I make no claim on air that Pele himself was working with the CIA, but
What?
I'm
Why the
looking at-
hoax? What's the purpose of the hoax?
I mean, it's all based on the evidence of one historian, so maybe we need to have a look at that. But it says here, the United States needed to test television's power to influence people. It was part of the Cold War that was raging at the time. I call it the media race. I call it, as if that's fact. And there's a quote further down that just says, soon no one will be left who can swear that the World Cup took place here. So I still think it's open to question. I mean, I'll like I say, I'll forward it on to you both, and you can bring me your assessment of it next week. Did the 1958 World Cup ever take place? But I don't want this to overlap or interfere with my argument on Pele, because I feel like it would just, it would sort of bring a bit of illegitimacy to my argument if we sort of put the two together. So.
Very well played, Jack, there. You batted your defences well there.
I definitely remember bringing this up at a house party one time. I just can't remember who was there. Maybe it wasn't a house party. Maybe it was just me chatting to some strangers.
Now just imagine you turning up at a house party with like a crate of beer in one arm and then a 442 magazine in the other arm.
Yeah, lads, did you know that the 1958 World Cup was faked by the CIA?
Holding the 442 up in the rave.
And they're like, I think you've got the wrong house, mate.
Oh, well, is that it for this week?
Well, yeah, I feel
right,
there's no coming back for me after this. That's like I've thrown this conspiracy theory out there. I'll be lucky if I'm allowed on the airwaves next week. But cheers to that, lads. I feel like we've accomplished a lot there. We've had a bit of a sort of exploration into the murky world of football documentaries.
Yeah,
and I
a few
enjoyed it very much.
recommendations in there as well, isn't there, for us all? So I've got some Harry's Heroes to be watching, and a little bit about Jerusalem football. So got some good evenings ahead of me.
Yeah, we're really getting like the cultural significance coming through these documentaries. I think we should do a full episode dedicated to Harry's Heroes. I'm definitely behind that proposition.
Maybe we can get one of their subs on.
If Alan Kennedy wants to come on this podcast, then yeah.
Sub in for you.
Well,
Yeah, come on. I can imagine it. Yeah, I'll come on for a beer.
He's not been debunked. Right. Yeah, well, thanks for joining me again this week, boys.
Superb. Enjoyed that one.
Yeah, we'll close the bar for now, but we'll open it up again next week. Cheers.
Come on.
See you in a bit.